The threat isn't completely gone from the area, should the winds continue to shift again.
Now at 9, a new recommended evacuation put in place for Utah's largest wildfire. What state fire officials want you to know tonight.
Mostly clear sky tonight, but changes are coming when we have a chance for flash flooding as the monsoon makes a return, plus your air quality forecast.
Found him laying on the side of the house, and you could tell he had been trampled.
Aggressive deer attack one dog and kill another in this Sandy neighborhood. Now owners are trying to figure out how to stop it.
People living in one Utah town want to save their rec center, but would doing so come with a big tax hike? We'll have reaction from both sides.
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13 News at 9 starts right now.
We begin tonight with a fire evacuation recommendation for residents living near the Bryce Canyon area.
The Kane County authorities are going door to door in the Bryce Woodlands estates, notifying residents and helping them evacuate. They say the Left Fork fire has grown in size due to increased wind and fire behavior.
With the fire behavior that we are starting to see and continuing to see at this time, spot fires are a very real issue where the fuels are very receptive to any spark that lands in the area. And because it is so dry and windy, they are catching pretty quickly and starting their own fires outside of that perimeter, which is what happened here.
Hellstrom says the evacuations are being recommended out of an abundance of caution. There is no word on how long the recommendation will be in place. Hellstrom says lifting the order would depend on how the weather behaves.
Also new tonight, listen to this. The National Weather Service Storm Survey Team has now confirmed an EF2 tornado did touch down and also do significant damage through Indian Canyon in Duchesne County just this past Sunday. They say it was on the ground for approximately 2 miles. The estimated peak wind was 125 miles per hour. Take a look at these pictures. Luckily, this is a very remote area. No injuries were reported, but as you can see, a large number of trees were snapped near the base, with some treetops found miles away.
Boy, whether in a remote area or in a populated area, Mother Nature can be really powerful.
We've felt it this past weekend.
Yes, absolutely. So I wanted to go ahead and just quickly touch on that radar from that time frame. This is Sunday morning between 9 and 10 a.m. as the system moved to the north, just north of Price. So we're lucky that it hit in that remote area, Indian Canyon in southwest Duchesne County, with that peak wind 125 miles per hour. Here tonight, much calmer. Temperatures across Utah around 70 to 80 for Provo, Salt Lake, Ogden. For St. George right now, currently 92 degrees. Here's what I'm watching for you across the region. Clouds will start to move in tonight across southern Utah, and we'll end up with some chances for monsoon pop-up thunderstorms the next few days, starting with southern Utah, moving into northern Utah by Thursday and into Friday. So for tomorrow, for the Wasatch Front, we'll have temperatures near 60 degrees for your morning drive with dry roads. Tomorrow evening, 87 for the afternoon drive. So I'll let you know what you can expect with some fire concerns the next few days, your air quality forecast, that UV index, and also the monsoon storms all coming up.
Thanks, Allison. Just into the Fox 13 newsroom, Salt Lake police are looking for a suspected bank robber. Take a look at your screen. Police say this man in the surveillance photos is behind 2 armed robberies this afternoon. The first one happened at the Deseret First Credit Union in Sandy just before 4:30. The second one was just before 6 p.m. at the America First Credit Union near 1800 South and Pioneer Road. If you recognize or know this man, call 911 immediately. Pet owners in a Sandy neighborhood are sending out a warning tonight after one dog was critically injured and another killed by a deer.
The first attack happened on Thursday, the second just this past Sunday. Fox 13 News reporter Emily Tenser spoke with the dog owners, also wildlife resources, about what should be done next.
For Grizz, the 15-year-old Shih Tzu, small movements are painful right now.
They said he's probably not going to make it. They recommended euthanasia.
His owner, Dave Ross, says deer attacked his dog in their backyard. Grizz has 6 broken bones and 20 staples holding his wound shut.
I came out, he was laying there, unable to move.
Ross lives in Dimpledale Heights in Sandy. On Father's Day, he saw deer in his neighbor Ty Erickson's yard and called him to warn him, but by then it was too late.
Came outside was kind of our last resort and found him laying on the side of the house, and you could tell he had been trampled.
Tiggs the Yorkie Poo won't be walking back through this doggy door. He didn't survive his injuries.
He's our world. We'd always joked around that he was a human, and I think most people would tell you that, about their animal.
There's a fence surrounding the entirety of Erickson's backyard. Still, the deer hop over.
So we're guessing either coming out of the doggy door or coming back in. They had a confrontation in a narrow area, and, that was it for him.
The Division of Wildlife Resources tells Fox 13 News it could be a doe protecting her fawn. Sandy's Animal Services Division falls under the police department. Sergeant Greg Moffitt says euthanasia or relocation isn't their responsibility.
Dogs generally frighten off deer as well, so that's why this most recent thing with this the small dog up in Dimpledale is kind of rare. We don't see that very often.
Both Ross and Erickson have reached out to the city and DWR to figure out how to stop the wild animals from hurting other pets and hopefully no humans.
I do hear a lot of people, oh, they're so cute and I love to see them graze in my backyard, and that's what most of us think. But now when you start hearing this, it only takes once.
They aren't the sweet little things that we think they are.
The Division of Wildlife Resources says if you see a deer, keep your space. The city of Sandy actually has an ordinance that prohibits people from feeding them. Now, DWR says if deer do become overly aggressive, they could consider euthanasia. Reporting in Sandy, Emily Tenser, Fox 13 News, Utah.
One seasonal worker with Box Elder County was killed, another injured in 2 worksite accidents today. The Box Elder Attorney's Office said the employees may have been involved in rollover crashes while operating UTVs near Promontory. Both employees were workers with the Weed Control Department. Officials report the employee, who is in the hospital, is reported to be in stable condition tonight. An investigation is ongoing. Tonight, the fate of Roy City's recreation complex is uncertain.
The pool has been closed now for almost a month due to a mechanical issue which could cost more than $1 million to fix. Tonight, dozens of citizens showed up to a city council meeting to make their voices heard.
Fox 13 News reporter Jenna Bree joins us live now as that meeting is still going on. Jenna, I see some people walking out behind you. What's being said there tonight?
Bob and Kelly, they just approved this budget, a 15% tax increase. Now, this is a very emotional issue for residents. Children learn how to swim in the pool, but also older adults use it to maintain their health. The majority of the people are in support of keeping this complex, but some say it's just not worth it. So during the city council's work session a little while ago, they discussed this new budget, up to 15% property tax increase again, which they just approved. It would cover the estimated more than $1 million needed to fix the broken boiler and other issues, as well as money for hiring more police and firefighters. The council considered closing the complex completely. Now some of these residents don't want to see tax increases, but they don't want the city to give up on the complex. Some suggested using some of the rainy day fund and fundraising, but others think even $1 million couldn't fix what's already broken.
In our political climate right now, that we always think that things are one way or another, and I just think that a lot of times we can find solutions if we take the time to do that.
I just feel like, it's kind of almost lost its usefulness, the complex. Back when it was built almost 50 years ago, there really weren't any other options, and now there's just a ton more options that are available, and I don't know the statistics, but from what I understand, the percentage of Roy residents that are actually currently using it is pretty slim.
I didn't love being in school, but the only thing that kept me going and keep my GPA up was the swim team. It kept me out of trouble, like Councilmember Jackson said. It kept crime rates down. So I didn't have the chance to do it. I would go straight after school, go swim, and then come straight home.
It breaks my heart to hear these elderly people that this is their livelihood. This is what's kept them alive through surgeries, through cancer, through car wrecks, through, and then gives them a reason to get out of bed.
Again, City Council just approved this tentative budget of the 15% property tax increase. The majority of the crowd at tonight's meeting waving signs that said, "Save our Roy complex." For 3 hours, high schoolers shared stories of how swimming saved their lives. Older adults talking about making miraculous medical recoveries from doing laps. And tonight was just the start of the conversation on the future of the Roy complex. Also important to note, even when that money does come, it will take months to get that boiler and make those changes before residents can start swimming again. Reporting live in Roy, Jenna Bree, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Jenna, thanks. Former President Trump's alleged pressure campaign to overturn the 2020 election was the focus of today's hearing on the January 6th insurrection. We'll share what the former president said on one phone call when we come back.
Plus, it is one of the most stunning images we've seen of the devastating flooding in Yellowstone. That house crashing into a raging river. Now, hear from the man who lived there.
In national news, the U.S. House Committee investigating the Capitol riots held its 4th public hearing today.
Today's hearing focused on how former President Donald Trump and his allies pressured state officials in key battleground states, including Georgia, to overturn the 2020 presidential election. The committee revealed the former president made 2 calls to Georgia officials, pressuring them to reverse the loss of the state.
You have the most important job in the country right now, because if we win Georgia, first of all, if we win, you're going to have 2 wins. They're not going to win right now. They're down because the people of Georgia are so angry at what happened to me. They know I won by hundreds of thousands of votes. It wasn't close.
Trump would go on to claim in another call that he believed 18,000 votes had been falsified against him in Georgia, a claim that a state official testified was false. The next committee hearing will be on Thursday. It will focus on former President Donald Trump's attempt to use the Justice Department to back his election disinformation.
Tomorrow, the Southern Loop at Yellowstone National Park is set to reopen after devastating flooding last week. Now, you've probably seen the video of this entire house being swept away in the floodwaters of the Yellowstone River. Tonight, a man who lived in that house is talking about just how devastating it was. Tim Glover lived with 8 other people in the 5-apartment complex owned by the National Park Service. Glover says he was able to get most of his belongings out, but some of his neighbors weren't as lucky.
One of my neighbors knocked on the door to the other neighbor, and I heard the word evacuation. And I was like, what? So I flew out of my house to look down at the river. By the time that anyone looked out the door, the river was within 3 feet of our deck.
Glover has moved into permanent housing now in Mammoth and is still working with the Park Service. He says all his neighbors have been able to secure stable housing as well.
Bob, listen to this. A man now behind bars in Cedar City tonight after leading police on a high-speed chase that ended in the Iron County Jail parking lot, of all places. I guess it was convenient. It happened over the weekend. Court documents indicate 44-year-old Jeffrey Thomas Weber ran a red light in his van and refused to stop for police several times. And once he did stop, Weber refused to get out with his hands up. Now, once he did that, several officers detained him. When he was arrested, Weber admitted to using meth and other drugs within the last 24 hours. He was booked on DUI and other charges.
A Lehigh neighborhood has been named one of the hottest places to live in the entire country right now.
It's also a growing place. The 84043 zip code ranked 13th in Open Doors rankings for the first half of 2022. The online real estate company says Lehigh is a bona fide hub for the tech industry, and it's one of the oldest settled communities in all of Utah. It goes on to say it's close to everything and that it has an ideal balance between a bustling city and the great outdoors. If you'd like a closer look at all of the rankings, go to our website, fox13now.com, and click on this story.
Utah's Weather Authority Allison Krogan is back with us tonight. I don't know what you did over the weekend, but here's a picture of what she did over the weekend.
Pretty big weekend, huh there, Allison?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. I just want to tell everyone that Allison had the most beautiful wedding. I mean,
Oh, yes.
you were absolutely gorgeous, Allison. Your husband is an amazing, sweet, sweet man.
And pretty handsome, too, I must say.
I think so too. I
Yeah.
think I'm so lucky. His vows were really kind. Mine, I liked my vows as well. Weather tried to ruin the day.
But it didn't.
But
did
it
you
didn't.
Did you notice that it was Max Roth that officiated at your wedding?
Yes, he did such a good job, didn't he?
He
I mean,
did.
obviously I'm biased because it was my wedding, but
It was perfect.
It
It
was
really
beautiful.
was.
It
Yeah.
really
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And the viewers, all the comments that I've gotten on Facebook, I really appreciate it. I'm so happy to share that moment with you and share some good news in the forecast. So we have a beautiful view tonight. This is Deer Valley, Bald Mountain facing down towards Jordanelle. As you can tell, it's pretty low. We need more precipitation and we have some more in the forecast. So we head into the next couple of days. Temperatures are going to be pretty hot. Right now, as you get ready for bed, it's still close to 80 here along the Wasatch Front, 90s for St. George compared to this time last night, about 10 degrees warmer out there. But over the next couple of days, we're going to end up with pretty hot daytime highs. 85 to 95 will be your daytime high for the next week here in Salt Lake City. So the fire outlook for tomorrow, Delta further south all the way down towards Kanab, St. George, that'll be elevated for tomorrow. We'll have an elevated fire risk for southwest Utah. Plus, we have some chances for rain to return mainly into southern and southeastern Utah for tomorrow, moving further north later in the week. So overnight, tomorrow at 6 a.m., close to 50 to 60 degrees, Provo, Salt Lake, and for Ogden. Over the weekend, had a little bit of rain on my wedding day, which I was happy about because we need it here in our state. But it was that wind that was so pesky. For tomorrow, it won't be quite as windy as it was over the weekend. For tomorrow, air quality will be moderate. UV index will be very high, and we'll have a rather comfortable first half of the day tomorrow. And then starting at lunchtime, we're into the 80s. As long as you can find some shade, second half of the day, not bad. Mostly cloudy sky by 2 p.m. That chance for rain is really going to start filling in across southeastern Utah into the second half of tomorrow. So Wednesday at 5 p.m., near 90 for a high for the Wasatch Front. St. George close to 90 degrees as well. And then we'll see a lot of these clouds moving in by 7:30. And then into tomorrow afternoon, areas of rain, potentially even some brief heavy rainfall. So we're back into that monsoon season now. We're going to have a monsoonal pattern that's starting up, and we could see some areas of potentially flash flooding. So just got to stay aware of the forecast if you're planning on doing any recreating in those areas that are prone to flash flooding. So tomorrow, 5 p.m., we'll have that chance for showers and thunderstorms, mainly about Price further south. And then we'll see the chance for some rain to move in late Wednesday night down into Utah County. And then here in Salt Lake, our chance of precipitation, it's not non-existent, but it's not fantastic over the next week. We'll see some chances for isolated showers. Thursday night, widely scattered and isolated chances again as we head into the early part of next week. So every few days, we'll see a few chances for some isolated showers for the most part. St. George, near 90 to 100 over the next week. Overnight temps mainly in the 70s. Here along the Wasatch Front, we're close to 90 the next couple of days, mid-80s on Friday. Coming up later in the hour, I'll show you that flash flood rating for tomorrow here across the state.
Allison, thanks. Straight ahead, it was a walk to remember in South Jordan today. Why this walk is on the longest day of the year and what the importance is, the correlation to all of these people. We'll explain it for you when we return.
And celebrating 100 years of Aggie ice cream has never been sweeter. How the famous creamery in Cache County celebrated this big occasion.
Welcome back, everyone. Anthology Senior Living in South Jordan held the longest day Purple Chalk Walk fundraiser today in honor of those affected by Alzheimer's.
Residents at the center were treated to a walk around the center along with face painting and a caricature drawing. Chad Thaxton with Anthology Senior Living says it's about getting residents moving and staying active.
Yeah, the last thing we want is them to just sit in their room watching TV. So having them come out and get some sunshine, get some social interaction, which is really important also, and just doing something fun. You know, we all benefit from being happy and having fun.
Yeah, it's good at any age. All proceeds go to the Alzheimer's Association to help raise awareness and work toward finding a cure.
Several nonprofits here in Utah teaming up to beat the Guinness World Record for largest display of origami horses. Bridal Up Hope is a nonprofit who provides help for girls and women dealing with mental health issues. Along with this is the Place Heritage Park, also Utah Days of 47 Rodeo. They are putting on this event to raise awareness for Utah girls and to provide them much needed health services.
If you want to have a daughter or a woman who is interested in being part of this program, you can go to bridaluphope.org and sign up. If you want to give back and donate to help sponsor a girl or a woman.
The organization and volunteers folded 15,000 horses, beating the current world record. They expect to have 20,000 origami horses folded by the Days of 47 Rodeo.
I scream, you scream, we all scream for Aggie Ice Cream. Today was officially Aggie Ice Cream Day, thanks to a declaration signed by Aggie alumni Governor Spencer Cox. The day celebrates 100 years of the delicious Utah dessert, but leaders say the process behind Aggie Ice Cream is something to truly be proud of.
Not only do we produce ice cream, but we take care of the animals, the dairy cattle, and produce the feed and produce that milk, and then send it up here where it's processed into ice cream.
That's right. If you couldn't make it to the celebration today, don't worry, Kelly. Aggie Ice Cream has new flavors, giveaways, and more scheduled for the rest of the year.
I'm going to have to make a trip up there soon.
Those major windstorms that slammed the Wasatch Front really did kick up dust from the Great Salt Lake, and it's not good for your health.
The Weber County Animal Shelter has too many animals and not enough staff to handle the influx. What they're doing to mitigate the problem.
A study released this morning shows Americans are working fewer side jobs, but the same study shows Americans need the money more than they did before. We're going to tell you how both things are true.
Are you worried about the range of your electric vehicle not able to travel across the state or throughout the West?
With electric vehicle charging stations, they're not as widespread.
A new program aims to change that. We'll talk about the Charge West initiative coming up.
Having such a large source of dust so close to the urban area will certainly bring those impacts kind of closer to home and impact more people.
Major wind gusts over the weekend kicked up visible amounts of dust from the shrinking Great Salt Lake. State officials say it can impact everyone's health.
Fox 13 News political reporter Ben Winslow has the story from the Great Salt Lake.
The Utah Department of Environmental Quality says increasing dust as a result of the dry lake bed is something we all need to be more aware of, especially as the Great Salt Lake continues to shrink, impacting air quality.
We did see dust impacts both in areas south and north of the Great Salt Lake.
These time-lapse videos taken from Fox 13's cameras at the Natural History Museum of Utah and on top of the Oquirrh Mountains show the wind kicking up dust. Utah's Department of Environmental Quality says the bulk of that dust came from the West Desert.
For those areas that were downwind from the Great Salt Lake, we saw even additional dust there because of the exposed lake bed. That's something that concerns us, but it is something that is not unusual with these strong storm events.
The Great Salt Lake continues to shrink because of drought, climate change, and water diversion, exposing more and more lake bed. That impacts communities around it, picking up more dust, which contains trace amounts of metals and toxins.
We're concerned about all levels of that. It is a fine particulate that can impact our respiratory system, so it's something we should avoid. And where we can't maybe do a lot to refill the Great Salt Lake right away, as people are more aware of those conditions, as they see those high wind warnings and they're impacted by the dust, of course, move that exposure or reduce that exposure by moving exercise indoors.
The Utah State Legislature advanced a series of water conservation measures and funding to get more water into the Great Salt Lake. Those are just starting to go into effect.
You can't talk about the Great Salt Lake without talking about air quality, and you can't talk about the air quality on the Wasatch Front without looking to the Great Salt Lake.
But environmental environmental groups like O2 Utah say more can be done. They're rallying support for legislation to cut emissions in half by 2030 and provide water for the lake. A bill will be introduced on Capitol Hill next year.
If we can transfer over that energy into renewable resources, into smart city growth for our homes and buildings, we will likely see increased water supplies in those tributaries and into lakes like the Great Salt Lake across the state.
And Utah's Department of Natural Resources says we may just be a few weeks away from the lake hitting a new historic low. At the Great Salt Lake, Ben Winslow, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Well, the Utah primary election is 1 week from today, and Fox 13 News is helping you get prepared by introducing you to some of the candidates on the ballot. Today, Jake Hunsaker stopped by the Fox 13 News studios. He's running for U.S. Congress as a Republican in Utah's District 4, taking on incumbent Representative Burgess Owens. Now, he spoke about why he's running, also what he hopes to accomplish if elected.
I'm running in my party because we've made politics in this country a circus that's less and less productive and more divisive. And I want someone in my district who lives there, who fundraises there, who talks about uniquely Utah issues and doesn't, get distracted by the D.C. limelight.
To be clear, Utah Congressman Burgess Owens has also been invited to the studio for an interview, but his team has not yet responded.
Salt Lake police are urging you to slow down when driving into the city. A 3-day sting operation netted a total of 96 speeding citations and 22 warnings. Many of the drivers were going so fast they were going 25 miles an hour over the speed limit. One was going 98 miles an hour in a 40-mile-an-hour zone. Police say save yourself the hassle and slow down.
You're going to get there, and I know you think that you're going to get there faster, but in all reality, if you are pulled over, you're not getting there faster.
So far this year, there have been 15 deadly crashes in Salt Lake City. Police say many of the crashes, whether deadly or not, involved speeding.
In Ogden, nearly 24 firefighters were called out to a fire at an apartment complex this morning. While they were able to put out the fire, the damage to the building was done, leaving the apartments unlivable. While no people were hurt, one family did report the loss of several family pets.
It's devastating for everybody involved. I hope that everybody's able to find a solution from here and move on from the situation, as sad as it is.
All of our stuff will be okay. We've already had our management here and everything, and they say we might not be able to stay in the unit at all.
The cause of the fire is currently under investigation.
Too many animals and not enough staff. That's a dilemma the Weber County Animal Shelter is facing. Fox 13 News reporter Chris Arnold spoke with the shelter's director about what they're doing about it.
We're pretty much at the breaking point.
Whether it's dogs or cats, the Weber County Animal Shelter in Ogden is filled to the brim.
We have 381 kennels. Right now, we're about 220 animals right now.
Chad Averett is the director for the Weber County Animal Shelter. He says they're currently at 150% capacity. Averett says that is partially due to a couple of recent hoarding cases that brought several animals to the shelter.
We received 27 cats in one day and then another 30 or some cats the other day. And then we had a case of animal cruelty regarding some dogs. They had 9 pit bulls that we had to come in and get in.
Staffing has also been an issue, forcing them to close their doors for periods of time during the day.
Hey, this is Misha with the Weber County Animal Shelter.
He says they typically have a staff of 17 people. That has been whittled down to just 7.
We have some injuries. We have short-staffed. Some of our staff members went and sought some different jobs.
Averett says they even had to close down for a day recently to catch up on cleaning the animals and several administrative duties. Now he says they're holding off on taking in animals for the next 30 days, as well as performing any euthanasias.
We just have too many animals here that are on a list that we're trying to save.
While Averett calls this a temporary problem, it's one he recognizes won't be solved overnight.
Just try to be as understanding as possible. Just have patience with us.
Well, Averett tells me that they'll be transferring some of the animals to other places in the state and nationally to help mitigate their circumstance. But as for staffing, he says they hope to be back up to full staff by next month. In Ogden, Chris Arnold, Fox 13 News, Utah.
South Salt Lake Animal Services is also feeling the pinch right now. They posted on Facebook earlier today that they will not accept any owner surrenders until further notice. This comes after they've been at capacity for the past 2 weeks.
Do you have a side hustle? We're going to look at a new study about how the number of people with multiple jobs is declining.
And tonight, more clouds moving into southern Utah ahead of a monsoonal pattern change as we head into the next couple of days, where we have our best chance for rain, plus our fire concerns as we head into tomorrow.
A new report reveals an aspect of America's economy that is changing with inflation right now. It's about why Americans choose to work a second job. It's often called, of course, a side hustle, maybe a side gig.
That's right. A lot of people have an extra job. Fox 13 News anchor Max Roth takes an in-depth look tonight at this new study.
The new survey shows fewer Americans are working side gigs, and the reason for working that extra amount has changed. Digging deeper, we found Utahns in particular have made side jobs a common fact of life. The survey conducted by Bankrate.com shows 31% of American adults have an extra job, commonly called a side hustle or side gig. Compare that to 38% when Bankrate surveyed the same issue in 2019. While fewer Americans have side hustles, those with a side job tend to need the money more than they did before.
Many people who are side hustling are using this just to get by. Inflation is a huge part of this, of course. We found that 37% are spending more time on their side hustle these days, specifically because of inflation. Only 16% are spending less.
Young millennials aged 26 to 32 are most likely to have a side job. 43% of them do. But it's older millennials between 33 and 41 years old who are most likely to work such jobs in order to pay day-to-day expenses. 53% said that's why they do it. An example of how that has changed. In 2019, 31% of side giggers said they did the extra work to pay for basics, and 36% said they did it just for some extra spending money. But in 2022, 41% need the money for day-to-day expenses, and just 26% say it's for spending money. Now, as for Utah, a 2017 study by pennyhoarder.com showed Utah at that time had the 10th highest proportion of residents earning income from some kind of online gig. And in February of this year, GoBankingRates.com named Salt Lake City and Provo among the 8 best cities in the country for side hustles. Talking about Utah in that last study, the president of Inventus Partners said Utah has side hustle culture built into its fabric in a way other states don't. A reference to factors like Utah's long list of multi-level marketing companies, as well as more stay-at-home parents trying to earn some extra money. In studio, Max Roth, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Still ahead, a new initiative could provide a boost to the electric vehicle industry here in Utah, how they plan to make it easier to charge your car on a road trip, and how many states are involved in the program.
Coming up in sports, we'll hear from Dana White on the UFC's return for a big event in August. We'll also hear from Jazz owner Ryan Smith. He was also there on the search for a new Jazz coach and getting a draft pick.
We were just talking about this. With gas prices at an all-time high right now, more people are turning to electric cars. But there's still the issue of where to charge if you do want to go on a long road trip.
What's being dubbed as an electric highway across the Intermountain West hopes to address that, with Utah leading the way. Fox 13 News reporter Spencer Joseph spoke to the people behind the project.
In an internal combustion, gasoline-powered car, you know that the next gas station is not going to be too far away. With electric vehicle charging stations, they're not as widespread and available. And it's unfortunately a real worry for folks because there's a good chance that maybe you won't be able to make it to that next charging station.
We're all familiar with the anxiety that comes with your gas light coming on. But what about electric vehicles? Well, they call it range anxiety, and it's a real thing here in Utah. But this program aims to change that. It's called the Charge West Electric Highway. And Tuesday, it was launched right here in Salt Lake City.
It matters to Salt Lake City because we've been investing in electric vehicle infrastructure.
Mayor Erin Mendenhall is one of the many who have thrown their support behind this project.
It's exciting for me mostly because I came into politics to advance our air quality and make sure that our future was more clean than when I started.
The goal would be to install infrastructure all the way across the Intermountain West, creating the largest corridor of charging stations in the nation between Arizona, Colorado, Idaho, Montana, Nevada, New Mexico, Utah, and Wyoming.
When you travel from Salt Lake City to Moab or Boulder or Zion, that you know when you get there you'll be able to charge that vehicle, keep playing, and then make it home.
Visitors are looking more for responsible travel, and EV, I think, is a really great representation of that desire to be a responsible traveler.
Flint Timmons is with the Utah Office of Tourism, and he knows it's going to create more opportunities to travel.
Where we can say, not only do we have these majestic landscapes and this cultural heritage and unique opportunities available here, but you can also do it in an EV vehicle.
So together, this electric highway can reach any point in our 8 states with ease. In Salt Lake City, Spencer Joseph.
We will, welcome visitors however they want to travel.
Fox 13 News, Utah.
Well, speaking of driving, as you head out the door tomorrow morning, you'll have dry conditions here across the state. But by tomorrow afternoon, we're going to have some showers and thunderstorms mainly popping up for southern and eastern Utah. So for tonight, clouds starting to move into southern Utah, mainly down towards Lake Powell. Overnight temps will be around 50 to 60 degrees, so it's going to be a pretty comfortable start for your Wednesday morning. For St. George, near 70 with more clouds, and we're going to have those temps just rather comfortable during the first half of the day tomorrow. But for a high tomorrow, near 90 for Salt Lake and for Ogden, for Provo 86 tomorrow with partly cloudy sky. For central and southern Utah, Cedar City 80, Richfield 84, St. George 93 and cloudy, and for eastern Utah, chances for showers and thunderstorms for the Moab area, maybe even up towards Price. Some spotty showers possible at 86 for high, and for the Uinta Basin 88 and partly cloudy tomorrow. So a lot of clouds move in tonight. Let's go ahead and pause this for tomorrow evening for the afternoon drive. Finishing up that workday, 5 p.m. We have chances for showers and thunderstorms mainly about Price into southern Utah. Now, some of these could produce some brief heavy rainfall. Then we'll continue with some chances for some pop-up showers and thunderstorms Friday morning, 7 a.m., even into northern Utah. By Saturday afternoon, again possible into southern Utah. We're starting a monsoonal pattern here. A little early, but we'll take it. We're going to have that chance again into Sunday night. So we really just have to stay aware of the forecast, especially if you're planning on doing any recreating in areas that are prone to flash flooding, recent burn scars, normally dry washes. You guys know the drill. We look at the rain projection for the next 7 days, over the next week here across the country. Happy to see quite a bit of rainfall into Colorado and New Mexico, potentially several inches of rain, but here across Utah over the next week, we're mainly looking at around ½ of an inch of rain or less. That's the green that you're seeing. Areas of blue, that's more than ½ of an inch of rain. So down towards the LaSalle, up towards the Uintas, and then down into the peaks of central Utah, we could see more than ½ of an inch of rain. For tomorrow specifically, possible flash flood rating for almost all of our recreation areas. So that's Bryce, Canyonlands, Capitol Reef, Glen Canyon, Grand Staircase, Natural Bridges, Grand Gulch, San Rafael Swell, and Zion National Park. Possible means some slot canyons, dry washes, and small streams may experience flash flooding. Stay weather aware. St. George close to 95 to 100 degrees through Friday, a hot weekend, triple digits. We're keeping you close to 100 degrees through next Tuesday. Here along the Wasatch Front, we're near 90 through Thursday, mid-80s for Friday, heating back up into the 90s this weekend.
It's a big offseason for the Utah Jazz. Team owner Ryan Smith spoke to the media today and made it clear he's putting his trust in Jazz CEO Danny Ainge and general manager Justin Zanuck to make the right moves, which includes finding a new head coach.
I checked in last night and this morning, and I think Danny and Justin are doing a great job. They're leading it out. I think, I trust them, and I think we trust them. with 100% confidence. I think we've got some great minds, and they're working amazingly together to go build out a process. And I think the good news is there's a lot of phenomenal coaches in the NBA. The NBA is in great hands, and that gives me a lot of comfort. I know it gives them. There's a great group of talented coaches, and we'll see where it goes.
The NBA draft is Thursday, and the Jazz don't have a pick, but Smith thinks that might change on draft night.
I've been in the draft room twice, and I think both times they've asked to acquire a pick and pay money. So I think absolutely. I mean, everyone wants to be able to try to figure out if there's a young talent, especially with Danny's track record. But once again, it's a marketplace, so it has to be right.
The trade market also needs to be right for the Jazz to make a move. They've proven they'll spend the money, though. They had one of the highest payrolls in the NBA last season, with the hopes of winning a championship, and that's still the number one goal.
It's what we want. I mean, I'm a fan. We've never had it here. I think that we all want that, and we'll work pretty hard to go get that. That's what Danny and Justin are going to work at, and to say, well, hey, what does that look like? What are our options? Can we go forward the same way? What do we need to do? And, we're just trying to make the best choices possible. But from my standpoint, my philosophy is the same. Try to get the best people in the world and empower them, and that gives us the best chance to win.
Well, fans of Ultimate Fighting Championship will soon get a rare opportunity to see a big-time card live right here in Utah. Dana White and Ryan Smith talked about bringing UFC 278 to Utah.
I think it's just the beginning of what we see for Utah and Utah sports. And I think that it shows you the growth in Utah and everything that everyone's been working for so long.
It is the greatest live sporting event you will ever see. Sorry, brother. It is the greatest live sporting event you will ever see. You think it's good on TV. You think it's fun watching it at home. You think it's great in the bar. Wait till you come watch it live in an arena like this. I guarantee you it'll be the greatest sporting event that you have ever seen in your life live. Utah Jazz 2.
Oh, there you go. We'll be right back.
Thanks for being part of Fox 13 News at 9.
Stick around, because up next after a short break is QuickCast.